Car Comparos presents top 5 cars with highest torque to weight ratio under 10 lakh. The truth about performance. Performance has traditionally been equated with power, which is why car buyers obsess over the bhp or PS number of cars. But the bhp that is mentioned is the peak power that the engine produces at the top end of its RPM range. But when we drive, we tend to stick to the mid-range or even the low end, which is why buyers and manufacturers both have started to focus more on torque. Torque peaks at lower revs than power and has a much stronger relation to how quickly a car picks up speed at low to mid RPM than the power figure. However, heavier the car, more the torque required to propel it, which is why the torque to weight ratio is an even more useful statistic to gauge the performance feel of a car. That is why we have compiled this list of top 5 highest torque to weight ratio cars under 10 lakh. It is no surprise that all the cars in the list are diesel powered, thanks to the high compression ratio at which diesel combustion happens, compounded further by today's cutting edge common rail diesel injection systems. At number 5, we have the Ford Figo Aspire with a torque to weight ratio of 210 Newton meters per ton. The Figo Aspire makes it into the top 5 thanks to its mind-blowingly good diesel engine. You really have to drive the Figo Aspire to believe how strong its drivability is. Back in the day, we were quite impressed with Volkswagen Group's Vento and Rapid twins, but Ford has outdone VW by giving mind-blowing performance at 2 lakh rupees less than the Vento and Rapid, and surprisingly 40,000 rupees less than the Polo diesel. It really puts the mindless hype garnered by cars like the Punto Abarth, Polo TSI, and EcoSport 1.0 EcoBoost into perspective. Best thing is that the performance is matched by equally good dynamics. Ford yet again lives up to its reputation of making a pliant car without any body roll and best steering feel we have ever experienced on a car having an electronically assisted power steering in the market. We are willing to stick our neck out and say that along with the Figo hatch, the Figo Aspire is by far the best car on this list. At number 4, we have the Škoda Rapid with a torque to weight ratio of 212 Newton meters per ton. The Rapid, as you know, is nothing but a reskinned Vento. For some unfathomable reasons known only to the Volkswagen Group, it is somehow lighter than the Vento and therefore has an infinitesimally better torque to weight ratio as well. It is also every bit as good as the Vento in terms of its cornering manners. However, Škoda's service network is more notorious than Volkswagen's. This is why, in spite of being slightly cheaper than the Vento, you would be better off going for the Volkswagen if you expect a hassle-free ownership experience and a higher resale value after 5 to 7 years. At number 3, we have the Ford Figo with a torque to weight ratio of 213 Newton meters per ton. The real star of this list is unquestionably this car. In spite of being the cheapest car on the list, it stands proudly on the podium. Not only that, it also has fantastic dynamics to channel all that torque to the tarmac properly. It has one of the best electronic power steering setups on the market. It really makes the Polo GT TDI look grossly overpriced. If we were to calculate the torque per weight per lakh, the Figo would win hands down. This car is so damn punchy to drive that it shakes the preconceived notions about so-called enthusiast cars and blows the roll-on figures of a Punto Abarth out of the water. It can teach the pseudo-enthusiasts a thing or two about overtaking. That's how good it is. If you ask us, we would not recommend any other car on the list but this. In fact, we would not recommend any other car than the Figo below 10 lakh, period. At number 2, we have the Volkswagen Polo GT TDI with a torque to weight ratio of 218 Newton meters per ton. Polo GT has the same 1.5 liter engine of the normal Polo diesel, but in a higher state of tune like the Vento. Being a hatchback, it weighs slightly lesser than the Vento, giving it an outstanding torque-to-weight ratio. Even though it gets beaten by the Hyundai Verna, it is in fact a better car to drive than the Verna. It has none of the turbo lag of the Verna and hence requires far lesser gear shifting while negotiating city traffic. It is a perfect pocket rocket for daily use as well. Thanks to its sub 4-meter length and fantastic drivability, it is a great city commuter. But the best part is that it is a proper monster when it comes to overtaking on the highways, and is easily capable of teaching those big swanky saloons a thing or two on the highway. The car with the highest torque-to-weight ratio under 10 lakh is the Hyundai Verna. It has a torque-to-weight ratio of 225 Newton meters per ton. The Verna takes the top spot on the list thanks to the unceremoniously huge blower that Hyundai has bolted on to the engine. It is a perfect example of how relying on the academics of spec sheets can lead to a wrong buying decision. The problem with a big ass turbo is that it needs a lot of exhaust gas to spool up, which means it needs more than 2000 rpm to start being of any use. That also means it is a pain to pilot at the lower rpm and that the power delivery is going to be anything but smooth. But that's not all. The Verna also does not have a good chassis suspension to back up its power. It is too softly sprung, causing it to wallow over bumps at speed and understeer heavily around all kinds of turns. The over-assisted steering adds to its misery by robbing off any semblance of steering feel and feedback. If you even have a single enthusiast bone in your body, we urge you to stay well away from it and choose any other car from the list for driving pleasure.